We've got a fantastic non-conference matchup today between top 10 Villanova and Monmouth. It's Lacrosse at the Shore coming up right now. Hey, very good afternoon from inside the booth at Kessler Stadium with Jackson Heil. I'm Matt Harmon. Jackson, you know, it's a Villanova team that comes in very highly touted. The champs now with Philadelphia, winning the Philadelphia Classic. And a Monmouth team, which is new to the CAA, trying to bounce back off a tough loss to Delaware.
Yeah, it was a rude awakening to CAA play, that's for sure. You go on the road having to face the preseason conference favorites in Delaware. But the great thing about sports is you get an opportunity to bounce back. And what an opportunity today for Monmouth. You get to play one of the hottest teams in the country in Villanova, coming off a big win and an emotional win over Penn. Should be a good one here from Kessler Stadium.
And we've got players that can do it in so many facets of the game today. We're going to focus on a couple of them right now. For Villanova, the attack usually starts and finishes with Matt Campbell.
You're certainly right, and he's such an aggressive Dodger, and he can play midfield, he can play attack. So dangerous when he's able to get to that left hand. You want any chance of getting a win over Villanova today, it starts with trying to slow down number 2 in blue. And when you talk about Monmouth, you talk about Cade Stratton, one of the most physical Dodgers in the CAA. He loves to get to his left hand, not afraid to go to the dirty areas, but again, offensively, everything they run is through him. He loves to get to the left hand, but he's also a really good feeder with his right. It starts with him today if Monmouth wants a chance offensively.
Clearly, the Monmouth attack will have to be very, very sharp here today. You see a little bit more in our impact players. Stratton, a guy who didn't play in Monmouth's win over Mount St. Mary's, came back against Delaware. So important. And you know, the thing I think when you look at it, Jackson, for both of these players is that they have so much experience.
Yeah, and they have so much to offer. I mean, they've been through the wars, and you talk about Campbell coming back for a 5th year. He was granted the extra year of eligibility with the COVID season, and he's certainly going to be an All-American this season. You talk about Stratton, one of the better players in the CAA. He's got definitely a learning curve going from the MAC to the Colonial, but it should be an exciting one today, and it starts at the X.
Justin Coppola and Matt Sutar, the players who will see each other, one would think, a lot today.
And you got to win in the trenches if you're Monmouth. Definitely a key to today's game. You want to pull off an upset, you can't shoot yourselves in the foot. It starts with winning possessions and then being effective in the clearing and the riding game.
First opportunity here for Monmouth. Connor McCrae will go back behind the cage and set up this first attacking spot for the Hawks.
And you got to start early, too. He talked about against Delaware. They got blitzed out of the gate. You got to keep this game close, and then the further you get on, the sooner you start to believe.
There's a shot up high, and the save is made by Will Vuitton. Vuitton, a New Jersey player from Summit. He was one of the best goalies in all of high school lacrosse at his time here in the Garden State, and he has had a great career for the Wildcats.
Yeah, and a pretty easy save right off the bat. Is Caffarelli, the freshman, such a good cutter, and he always seems to find the seams, and Stratton found him point blank there, but stick side high shot. Vuitton's going to make that save 10 times out of 10.
We talked about Campbell being the guy. He's got it right now, but it's a Villanova attack that is loaded in their attacking spots and through the midfield. First opportunity will go a little bit wide. Opportunity taken by Tucker Goodell.
And actually, I think Coolman got a piece of that. It was a good opportunity coming down the left side with his left hand. And it's a pretty good shot, honestly. Off hip. It's not stick side high, so he changes levels a bit. But it's a good save and a good start for both goaltenders, and something that Villanova certainly aware of. Penn had over 21 saves in their last game. Definitely can be frustrating when you get a goalie standing on his head, and a good start for Coolman in that regard.
Yeah, quite a run for Villanova in the Philly 4 Lacrosse Classic, knocking off Drexel and then Penn 9-8.
And they've done it on both ends recently. Playing as good as any team in the country right now. I mean, Maryland and Maryland's lost a couple games, but I mean, you look at the two best teams in the country right now, in Virginia and Notre Dame. I think outside of maybe those two, I don't think you can name a team playing better lacrosse than Villanova. You could have said Penn State, but they just lost to Marquette coming into today. So got to keep the train rolling here if you're the Wildcats.
Sam Parkinson with a flick forward for Campbell into the attacking area for the Wildcats. Each team now with 2 opportunities at goal. We haven't seen anything, and an unforced error there. We'll give it back to Monmouth as Miles Edmonston will go back and collect.
Yeah, sloppy start for both teams. We've seen a couple good opportunities, but that's an unforced error for Villanova. And for Monmouth, a big key, we talked about it, in the clearing game. Can't turn it over, and a nice clear right there.
Caffarelli lets one go. It's Connor McCray who will pick up the first of the day for Monmouth. Unselfish look from Caffarelli. Numbers for Monmouth, and the Hawks find the goal first.
It's a really heads-up play by Michael Quigg, breaking down the defense with that pass over the top, and then it's tic-tac-toe. Stratton moves it quickly. Caffarelli, usually a shooter, but a 2-on-1 situation, makes the extra pass, and McCray's going to score that 9 times out of 10. And what a start for the Hawks. You get the turnover, and then you turn that into offense. And back to the X is going to be a big part of this one today.
Digging it out was Thomas Gray. Monmouth trying to go quick. And they will give possession to Villanova. That's one of those, if you're going to win the faceoff, you at least need to make sure you get an opportunity at goal.
And Sutar looked like he had a lane there. I mean, 4-on-3. That's a drill you practice every single day, but tried to do a little too much there. I thought he should have released it about a second earlier before the pressure came, but it's going to be a big part of trying to pull off an upset today. If you want to win, you got to control the possession game. I say you can't win games there, but you can certainly lose games. And the Hawks doing a good job at the X so far, 2 for 2.
Mason Reale, that one dings off the top part of the goal, off the crossbar.
It's an uncharacteristic miss by Patrick Daly. So good in those small spaces. And now Monmouth draws a flag.
Daly, 18 goals on the year.
And it's weird, you don't see a guy who's 6'2", usually plays on the crease, but he's certainly one of them. It's usually the smaller guys that can find tight areas and find the seams. Daly, a rare breed in that he is 6'2", but he's also so effective in those close areas.
This is Matt Carsian, the senior out of Wyckoff, New Jersey, part of the first line for Monmouth. Burke Webb playing a little bit through the midfield today as well. Flag down, so Monmouth trying to keep this possession on. Shot clock is at 20. Good job by Stratton to hold the possession. Caffarelli lets it go off the bounce, a little wide. And now we will see Monmouth go to a man up.
A really encouraging start for Monmouth, and it's the second chance Caffarelli's had. We've talked about earlier, the freshman's so good at finding the right areas. And he has 12 goals on the year. He probably should have about 20 with the chances he's had. But what a nice play by Stratton on the sideline. Getting creative on the turf, finding the ground ball, and then able to relieve the pressure. But now you get a man-up opportunity. You got to stay in it early. We talked about Monmouth doing more than that right now, and we'll see if they can convert on the man-up.
1 minute penalty. Monmouth on the season, 6 man-up goals, 6 of 25.
And they're going to be patient here. You want to get it at least a full rotation before you really get into your set.
Austin Frazier on the cross check. Wind-up shot from Carsian. I think Vuitton fought that off and pushed it back towards the back boundary.
It's a pretty good look there for Carcian, but I thought he had one more pass to Caffarelli, who was cutting from behind the cage. David Ivanchek was the one who he committed to Carcian immediately. That left Caffarelli on the curl. If he gets it one more pass, it's a dunk. Not entirely sure what the stoppage here is.
19 on the penalty.
Well, that makes sense then, because when I just looked up, it was 31 after the ball went out of bounds, so it must be a clock issue. I don't think you can ask for a better start if you're Brian Fisher. I mean, you've won some faceoffs, you've gotten some possessions, and you've taken advantage of a couple turnovers defensively. You got to turn defense into offense, and if you're Mike Corrado on the other side, got to be really frustrated with how his team started. A couple unforced turnovers. You take a penalty in the riding game from an attackman in Austin Frazier, but this start in this first 6.5 minutes has definitely favored Monmouth.
Brian Fisher there in the lighter of the two gray jackets. He has been the only head coach in the program's history in his 10th season now. Has been to the NCAA tournament a couple of times. Mike Corrado in his 17th year, the former 1987 graduate of Villanova. He's in the Wildcat Varsity Club Hall of Fame. Had a fantastic career as a player, 1984 to 1987. Whatever the clock issue was, looks like they've got it worked out. They have put 65 on the shot clock and now changed that to 63, and there are 33 seconds on the penalty.
So credit to the officials for sorting that out. And now you look to go a little quicker if you're Monmouth. We talked about it before. When you have a minute man up, you like to get the ball around at least once, sometimes maybe twice. But now you got to get into it a little quicker. And Caffarelli's been a popular option early on the interior. He's had a couple chances from point-blank range, hasn't been able to convert. Let's see if they look to get him another look. He's so good at moving in that 5 to 10 yard area. He's going to be a big part of this program going forward. Still waiting on the clock. They've now put 30 seconds on the penalty to Frazier and 30 on the shot clock as well.
Play continuing. Carcian. Set back up, McCray. Low shot, that dings off the post, I think, kicks back out. Possession will stay with Monmouth. Clock continuing to run. They've got about 10 seconds remaining on the penalty.
Nice shot by Sean Ketchen. Just an unfortunate result.
Credit Villanova fighting off the man down.
Yeah, and Reed Colwell just ate one right in the back on that shot from Carcian.
That, as they say, will leave a mark.
Yeah, and he's been a big part of what Nova's been able to do defensively this year. He has stepped up as the leader defensively, the junior from Westfield. And he'll have the assignment for the most part of trying to limit Cade Stratton.
Campbell with it, played by Michael Quigg, part of a pretty experienced back three. Two of the three, I should say. Ryan Morris, grad student. Edmiston, the freshman out of North Carolina for Monmouth.
Yeah, Michael Quigg will get that assignment on Campbell early. Did a good job initially, but talked so much about Campbell. He loves to get to that left hand and free up his hands.
Open look, far side, and a goal. Austin Frazier goes top shelf to tie it at 1.
And that's a great way to break down the defense. Skip pass over the top into a step down rifle from Frazier. Really steps into that one, goes off stick on Kuhlman, who can't stop it. But a really nice job by Nova. They were patient offensively, and Reality was the one who was able to whip it over the top. And a nice response by Nova after they were able to get the stop on the man down.
Face-off win for Monmouth again. Matt Sutars held his own at the X.
And he's done well against the big boys this year. I mean, he had a really strong opening against Princeton, one of the lone bright spots in that game for Monmouth.
Quick high shot taken and an easy save made by Vuitton.
That's a couple shots from in tight that have gone right into the stick of Vuitton. You got to change levels from that area.
Wildcats look to take advantage. Campbell going high and scoring for the Wildcats. Villanova going down a goal early have responded with back-to-back tallies.
And it all starts with Reale again. No look feed across, and Campbell's such a veteran. He knows he has to take the extra step up top. And just in a bad approach by Michael Quigg, he was too aggressive in that closeout, and Campbell was able to do a quick jab step, comes up high, gets the extra angle, and is able to beat Kuhlman.
Andrew Coleman, the junior out of Austin, Texas. Going to be tested today.
And talk about being tested, that's a big time stop.
Here's Coleman right there. Gray started it. Monmouth with numbers. They bounce it across. McCray. Caffarelli tried the over-the-shoulder hurl. Off target, possession Villanova. So we've seen now the last 2 times down for Monmouth, they have gone quick with their shot opportunities. One save made by Vuitton, that one a little bit offline. What do you think the idea there is?
I mean, you want to get opportunities in unsettled situations, and they've gotten good looks for the most part. I mean, that one from Caffarelli I thought was a bit of a force. He didn't have a great angle on that shot, but they've had good opportunities, just the shooting hasn't been there in the early going. They've had 2 looks from inside of 10 yards that have gone right into the stick of Vuitton, who hasn't had to move. But overall, I like the idea of trying to get early offense.
Campbell. Held up and stick checked by Tommy Gray.
Great job. Got to be on his hands when he tries to get free.
Frazier thought about it. Daly going low and beating Coleman off the turf, giving Villanova a 3-1 lead.
And it doesn't take much space for Daly. He will just get his hands free and just a flick of the wrist down low to beat Coleman. Didn't have much of a chance there, but you mentioned Daly before. He doesn't miss many in tight, but when he's able to do things like that, this Villanova offense is almost unstoppable because he's more of a cutter and a finisher than a dodger himself, but somehow able to get the hands free and let one go. And now Nova's starting to dominate possessions here. And you can't let this get out of hand early. If you're Monmouth, you got off to the good start, but the Wildcats have come back in quick succession. Got to settle down here and get a stop.
It would be a theme reminiscent of the last time out for Monmouth against Delaware. They had chances against the Blue Hens, didn't convert, and the difference is at this next level, teams will make you pay if you don't keep up with the score.
Yeah, I mean, they could easily have 3 or 4 goals right now if the shooting was there.
Licata, good stick work. That one bounced down in front of Coleman. Possession given to Monmouth.
That was almost a bad break for Monmouth. It looked like Campbell's shot was going to go right into the stick of Coleman in between the pipes, but it got deflected. But what a great check by Quigg. Licata was in a vulnerable area. He does a nice job staying aggressive to make that play and win possession for the Hawks.
Caffarelli had it for a second. See who digs it out. Ivanchik gets it, and we've got a flag that was thrown on the far side. This will be another man-up situation for Monmouth. And you would look at it and say, well, 3:33 remaining in the first, so much time to go in this game. This, to me, is almost in one of those spots.
Yeah.
If you're Monmouth, you've got to keep pace.
It's not a must-have man up here, but you certainly feel like you need to convert to stay in this. And something that's been interesting to monitor too is Nova will go to that 10-man ride, and they've tried it once or twice here early. And one of the big ways to break that is with the long pass from Quigg. We saw Monmouth get their early goal by breaking the 10-man ride on a long pass to Stratton that led to an odd man opportunity. This one leads to a penalty, and now get a little 6-on-5 for the Hawks. And they looked good on their first man up opportunity. We talked about the chances they've had. They could have had 2 or 3 goals on that man up alone, but now it's only 30 seconds. You got to go a little quicker and got to get into your sets early as opposed to letting it rip around the horn.
Luke Raymond offside. 30-second man-up chance for Monmouth. McCray. Ketchin, McCray, Carcian. Cole with it. Penalty over.
And they're looking for Caffarelli on the interior. It looked like for a split second he was open with about 10 seconds to go on that penalty, but nice job of staying patient until the turnover.
Good stick work there by Stevie Jones to cause the turnover.
And Nova's short sticks are so good. I mean, Chet Comizio might be the best short stick D-midi in the entire nation. A really nice job in the riding game so far for Monmouth. They forced a couple turnovers in that area, and now they get another possession back. So
a lot of the numbers early on, very similar. Each team 8 shots, couple of saves per side. Face-offs, Monmouth a 3-2 advantage, but it's Villanova who has taken the best chance of their opportunities. Leading here 3-1 as we come up on 2 minutes in the first.
You can only do so much. If you don't finish your chances, it's going to be hard to win games against a team of Nova's quality.
Luke Cole maybe forcing one, trying to get it to McCray.
And Comizio draws a flag in the clearing game, and now Nova will have an opportunity with a delayed penalty.
Wildcats looking. Campbell, right side. Up top, Jones, save made by Coleman. Believe it's going to be Caffarelli who is going to go off with the Monmouth penalty.
Been really impressed with Mason Reale, the senior midfielder for Nova so far. He's been a really good decision maker this season, a couple assists on the afternoon already, but just seems to always make the right decision. And you'll see him on the interior here. They'll probably work him outside, but he is a great feeder. Always has his eyes up. And he's hit a couple skip passes that have led to goals so far, but dangerous time now for Monmouth. You feel like you need a kill here. He gets to 3, and Nova starts to feel comfortable and get rolling. This game could get out of hand quickly, but got to find a way to contain number 2 in blue. They'll look to get him a look from about 10 to 15 yards on the man up. They love to get him the ball, so always have to have an eye on him.
1 minute penalty on Caffarelli. Unnecessary roughness. First man up for Villanova today. They are 9 of 20 coming in these situations. Catch, shoot, and fire too high. Gavin Durham.
It was a really good look for Nova. They were patient early. Didn't get the initial look they wanted, but They got Durham curling, and he's an extra man specialist. That's a quick look that they wanted, but
our broadcast today of Monmouth Hawks and Monmouth Men's Lacrosse, presented by Monmouth Medical Center and RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together. And by our good friends at Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's sub, be a sub above. With Jackson Heil, our entire Monmouth Digital Network crew, Matt Harmon. Good to be with you on a sunny Saturday afternoon, post St. Patrick's Day.
finally feels like spring.
Just a little bit today. Yes, it does. Villanova trying a couple of tough passes. Frazier the last to touch. Hawks will have an opportunity here with 17 and a man down to, one would think, kill the rest of this penalty off.
Yeah, and Gavin Durham did have a couple good looks there. That one, the fee was a little off the mark inside, but he was open on the crease. So important in 6-on-5 opportunities. You got to get the ball to the middle of the field. That's how you open up the entire defense, and in all likelihood, that's where you're going to get the best chances.
Penalty over. Monmouth waiting to get the other two into the attack, and now they do. Good stick check. Still trying to dig it out. Grabbed in the circle by Vuitton.
Talked about Colwell before. What a big-time check he had on Stratton.
It's going to take us to the end of the first quarter. An entertaining first quarter. Two teams not afraid to play some pretty open lacrosse. Villanova, top 10 team of the country. They lead Monmouth 3-1. End of one, start of the second. 3-1 Villanova, who tries to pick up their 6th win of the season. Wildcats have been not just good this year, they've been good for so long in college lacrosse, but this year specifically, you can kind of see what they've done over the last 4. Their numbers really impressive.
Yeah, and it's been one of the more impressive starts this season, and you kind of knew this was they were going to be good this year. I mean, you brought back a veteran group, a lot of seniors on this team, including Matt Campbell, who's going to be an All-American for sure. But what's interesting about this year for Villanova is that you look at what they've done on the out-of-conference. I mean, their win over Penn State is one of the best wins in the country thus far. Their only loss is versus Yale, who has been really good to start this season. Other than today, they got smoked by Cornell. But if they are able to finish this out-of-conference slate, if they win today and then 2 more, they'd be 8-1 out-of-conference. It's hard to see them missing the tournament.
Their Big East schedule will start the 1st of April against St. John's. Once they get in league, it becomes nothing but league games. St. John's, Denver, Providence, Marquette, and then the big one to conclude against Georgetown.
It's been I'd say it's been a pretty disappointing year thus far for the Big East in general. I mean, you obviously had Georgetown coming off the big season a year ago, losing to Delaware in an upset in the tournament last year, but this conference is going to be wide open. I mean, Georgetown's playing much better lately. You obviously have Denver in Bill Tierney's final season. And then Marquette just picked up a big win over Penn State today that I mentioned earlier. So this conference really is wide open right now, but Villanova certainly standing out amongst the rest at the moment.
Good turnover caused by Monmouth on the opening possession from Villanova, and that time you got to look at Terrence Lacewell running past contact.
Yeah, he's a big-time athlete. I wonder if he's a guy that they look at. He's a sophomore right now, but I think he can be a big factor as a two-way midi for this group. He can get downhill as a dodger, and he's got a lot of power behind his shot when he does let one fly, but such a good athlete and is a big part of what this team does defensively.
Played his high school lacrosse at nearby Christian Brothers Academy. Big possession here for Monmouth to start the second. Carcian in trouble. Shot clock to 10. Stratton trying to force it inside on Caffarelli. Flag coming. This is going to be, I think, on Caffarelli.
Yeah.
He's going to go out for the second time today.
And that just can't happen. I mean, against teams as good as Villanova, you can't make mistakes like that by taking penalties in the riding game.
Not when you don't need to.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I thought Villanova just got away with an offsides. And it took them a few seconds to call it, but the Monmouth bench was howling for a whistle.
Wildcats play a tough schedule. One like opponent between the two. Villanova beat Delaware 13-12. Monmouth last time out against the Blue Hens lost 18-6.
And that's a Delaware team that's starting to play better too. What a job Ben DeLuca's done there for the Blue Hens. Former head coach at Cornell and has bounced around since then, but has found a home at Delaware. Has done a great job. But for Monmouth, they've lost their only matchup against a ranked opponent this season at the opener against Princeton.
Caffarelli set up this man-up situation for Villanova. Wildcats +1 for the next minute. They won't need that full time. They'll get a goal on the opposite end. Patrick Daly with his 19th of the season.
It was only a matter of time, and we talked about Reale earlier. Great patience, faking to the near side, and then finding Daly, who just gets a step to let it fly. And I mentioned before, when he's able to get his hands free, he is really difficult to stop. One of the best shooters in the country. He's able to get a lot of power behind that 6'2" frame.
Let me correct that. Second on the day for Daly. He's up to 20 now on the year. Sutar and Coppola. We've got a hold on Monmouth off the face-off. Wildcat possession.
Yeah, and the bad news for Monmouth is Justin Coppola has really started to settle in. Sutar won the first couple, but Coppola has been able to get the clamp early, and not only get the clamp, but he's been able to bring the ball out into an area where he can get the ground ball himself in pretty clean fashion.
Wildcats back on the board. Tucker Goodell will get that finish. His first today. And Villanova starting to put some distance on the scoreboard.
And this is just a great cut. Talked about Lacewell being such a great athlete, but he just gets caught ball watching here, and Goodell with a heads-up play, taking advantage on the backdoor cut, and no chance for Coleman there. And this is the danger against a team like Villanova. We talked about they only scored 9 goals in their win over Penn, but Quakers had 21 saves in that game. They could have been a lot more, and when this offense is clicking, there are a few better in the country, and they are starting to, right now, dangerous moments for Monmouth here. And one of the big things I've been impressed with Villanova, I mentioned earlier, Reale has been a big-time creator early in this one. 3 assists in the game already. Always looking for that skip pass over the top.
There's one. Campbell off that skip from left to right, off target. Wildcats keep possession.
And you have big-time left-handed shooters on this team in Daly and Campbell. When you get that pass over the top, the rotation is late.
Coleman, good save. Had to go low to get it. Picked up by Ryan Morris, who will need some help.
And that's a shot you live with. You'd rather Campbell get it on his right hand down the alley. You'll take your chances with Coleman, who makes a good save there.
It's a really good ride here all over the field from Villanova. But a flag will come out and stop it, and it will be a man-up situation coming for the Hawks.
And the 10-man ride for Villanova has been effective early in this one. We saw Quigg break it down earlier for the only Monmouth goal, but overall Monmouth's had a lot of trouble getting the ball across midfield. They catch a break there, able to draw a penalty in the process, but it took them almost 20 seconds to get it over. And now this is a must-have for Monmouth. They've gotten good looks on their 2-man-up situations so far. Nothing to show for it, however. Let's see if they keep looking to try to find Caffarelli in the middle.
Gavin Burke off for a minute.
With the 1-minute penalty, now you get into your action.
Carcian, Caffarelli. Catch a number 11. Shot from distance, and Vuitton saw it the whole way.
And it's another one. It's high to high, stick side. Vuitton's going to stop that every time. It's the 3rd or 4th save he's had that he really hasn't had to move an inch. And that was probably the worst of the 3 man-up sequences for Monmouth. That situation, they were really stagnant on the perimeter. Not a whole lot of movement inside. They brought Caffarelli out. Tried to put Webb in the middle. Just not a lot of movement.
Campbell and Quigg, a matchup we've seen often already today in this first half. Good defensive work inside that time. Daly couldn't get the clean pickup.
Yeah, it was a nice job by Morris. He saved a goal there. He was the help defender. Daly was open on the crease, but Morris able to take the pass away, and an important stop for the Wildcats. And now they might have numbers here.
Scooter Whiteside, number 15 for Monmouth, will exit your picture. He's more of a defensive player. Did stay on for a moment.
And you try to see if you can find situations like that. Villanova in the process of subbing. You keep Whiteside on to see if you have numbers, but again, once it settles down, it goes off the field. Now Monmouth will have a settled possession.
Johnny McLean, possession right now. Cole. Stratton. So much for Monmouth today as this game has gone on, has been on the perimeter with shots like that from distance. Stratton tried the bounce attempt. Vuitton makes another save.
And that's a situation you want to attack. Stratton got the switch. He had a short stick on him. That's a situation you want to be all over.
Wind-up attempt. Sam Parkinson. Monmouth will use a timeout with possession halted. 7:10 remaining in the second. Villanova starting to roll. Wildcats leading 5-1. Jackson Heil, Matt Harmon, our entire crew. Happy Saturday, mid-March. March Madness, I guess it kind of rolls with the theme of what we've got going on here, man. I'll tell you what, just off topic for a second. The NCAA tournament, both the women and the men's side, but the men's side specifically has had some unbelievable upsets, and it does show in so many ways. Even a sport like lacrosse, you get now guys with the COVID year and the grad transfers and all of the different stuff. It's a different game because, in essence, older guys are playing a longer time.
I mean, look at even Villanova, for example. I mean, they have a lot of grad students on this team that wouldn't have the opportunity to necessarily get that 5th or 6th year that they would have in COVID. I mean, and you talk about the NCAA tournament, shout out the state of New Jersey. How about Fairleigh Dickinson yesterday pulling off one of the bigger upsets in the history of the NCAA tournament, and then Princeton yesterday.
Princeton the day before.
and that's already on top of St. Peter's last year.
Monmouth women's basketball program qualifying for the NCAA tournament for the first time in 40 years. Their first year in the CAA. Congrats to Ginny Bogus and the rest of her staff and players. They ran through the CAA tournament as a 7 seed. 4 games in 4 days. Ran out of steam a little bit against Tennessee Tech in the first 4 matchup. We will feature that coming up for you at halftime.
And back to lacrosse for the time being. I think overall, I mean, Brian Fisher's got to be happy with the way his team has played so far. I mean, they have hung in there with Nova. They have not been physically dominated by any stretch of the imagination. The only difference right now is Nova's capitalized on their chances and Monmouth hasn't. There was definitely an opportunity early in this game for the Hawks to have had a 2 or 3 goal lead, and they hit a pipe. They've had some chances in tight that they've put right in Vuitton's stick. And now an opportunity here.
Numbers forward and the shot low. Off target a little bit. And possession will be given back to Villanova. Now the Wildcats will take a timeout with Mike Corrado to settle his team down just a little bit.
And talked about missed opportunities. There's another one on an unsettled situation, 4-on-3. And McCray takes about a 12-yard shot when he has Caffarelli on the doorstep. You got to make the extra pass, and that's a dunk there for Caffarelli if McCray opts to go one more. And instead of a goal, you lose the race to the end line. It's going back to Nova off the timeout. Those are the things that are frustrating, and those are the things that make the difference. I mean, one of the biggest things that we've seen from Nova offensively is the extra pass, the skip pass over the top that's led to high-quality chances. Monmouth has had those opportunities, but we've seen a couple bad shots. We've seen them make the extra pass and result in a shot that goes right into Vuitton's stick. So it's as well as I think Monmouth is playing, it's got to be frustrating that they're down 4 goals.
It is the second time these teams have matched up. Go back to 2017. That was the 4th year in the program for Monmouth, so they had a veteran roster. It was the first of 2 times that Brian Fisher would go to the NCAA tournament, and at that point, it was the first win over a ranked opponent for Monmouth. They beat the Wildcats. You can see that one a little bit different than where we are today in Pennsylvania on the campus of Villanova. A 12-10 victory for Monmouth. They're going to have to put a lot of work in to try and go 2-0. And it's been interesting for Brian Fisher. I had a great conversation with him during the course of the week, and he's a guy in the lacrosse world, so well respected, 2001 graduate of Rutgers. He has, in essence, built the program from scratch here and built it over a couple of different ways. If you're Monmouth, you start one league, then you go to another, and you've got to run through all the different kind of issues that come along with it. No doubt that this Hawk team will be a force in the CAA in years to come.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you mentioned he's had to build it in so many different ways, and that's just the reality of college athletics nowadays. You have to adjust on the fly.
Great save made by Coleman, but Daly is there for the putback and will be credited with the goal.
And I think the officials were discussing maybe they thought he may have stepped in the crease at first, but they come to the conclusion that he didn't as we get another look. It's a good initial save by Coleman, but Daly talked about him in the scrappy areas. He's one that's so good in those tight spaces, and he's there, picks up the loose ball, is patient with it, and able to find the back of the net for his 3rd. And again, those situations are ones that it stems from, I'm going to call it a turnover because it was a really bad shot on the other end in a fast break situation by McCray. And then you don't pick up a loose ball, you get beat to it by Daly, and that's the difference in this one right now.
Daly 3 today, up to 105 in his career. 7th all-time in Wildcat history.
And Brian Fisher knew what he was getting to when he's played the schedule. I mean, you look at who who they've played this season. I mean, you open with Princeton. Now you play a team in Nova who's been phenomenal. Like, you're going to take your lumps going into CAA play, but that's also part of it.
Good save upstairs by Coleman as Daly wanted a fourth.
But it's only in the long run, these type of games only make you better, because when you're presented with situations that you're uncomfortable with, you learn a lot about yourself. And this team is definitely learning a lot, as in multiple flags are down on the play. So just an interesting observation from today. I mean, we've seen 3 or 4 flags in the clearing game on either side. I mean, Caffarelli's taken 2 penalties riding. We've seen an offsides penalty from Villanova. I'm guessing that's what we have here. That or too many men on the field. But both teams have been sloppy.
Burke Webb with it. Delayed call for Monmouth. Cut inside by Caffarelli. Vuitton jumps out of the crease.
And it is offside. So second offside penalty of the day for Nova. And we also saw them in a clear of their own go offsides as well. So that's just a lack of discipline in the substitution game.
Trip Robinson sent off for 30 seconds.
Monmouth hasn't been great in the man up so far. You got to get the ball inside.
McCray, wind up, too high. It's been perimeter orientated for Monmouth, with no direct cutters towards goal yet. Vuitton fights it off from McCray. Ball comes back to Connor McCray, and another save made by Vuitton.
And that's another one. I mean, how many times have I said stick side high today from Monmouth shooters? The first one was a good save by Vuitton. I mean, it's a bounce shot with his right hand that he changes directions. He goes off stick, and Vuitton does a really nice job of moving his body to the ball and getting his chest in front of it. The second one for McCray is a shot he should just pull out. He has no angle going away from the cage. If you're going to shoot it from there, it's got to be a jump shot, and you got to change levels. And McCray unable to do it on that occasion.
Frazier, the possession, flag coming.
And that might have been the easiest call in the world, right in front of the official.
Actually heard it up here.
Yeah.
It will be Jack Gertie who will go off.
You could have heard that one from Newark.
Be a 1-minute penalty on Gertie for a slash.
You get another look. It's good spin. And Gertie just a little too loose with the stick. Catches the helmet of Frazier. And Villanova have looked really dangerous with the extra man today. And you can hear them. They're saying first time, so they want to get into their action early, and they do right away.
Picked up by Daly.
Didn't work out there. We see Campbell always has his eyes up. Ready to shoot at all times. Definitely ready to feed. Would you look at that?
Gavin Durham will get the goal. You mentioned he is a man-up specialist, and it will pay dividends here for Villanova, who lead now 7-1.
And look at Campbell. He's always looking. He knows immediately where he wants to go with the ball before he gets it. As you get another look from behind, Campbell quickly gets it out of his stick, and an even quicker release by Durham. Senior from Doylestown. And this one getting away from Monmouth in a hurry. I mean, how good is this kid? He could be an All-American as a short stick D-midi.
Campbell scores again for Nova to make it 8.
And it starts with a big-time ground ball from Chet Comizio. And then Campbell low to high. A rifle from the All-American to be. Whew. Reminds me of Mac O'Keefe back in his Penn State days. On the run, low to high. You just don't see that very often. That is a big-time shooter's goal by Matt Campbell, who is certain to be an All-American this season. And a timeout on the field as Nova has extended their lead to 7.
This was the worry for Monmouth at this particular point of the game. Could you get it to halftime, shorten it a little bit? You can see the numbers that you're looking at were what these players had coming into the day. Daly has added 3 more goals to his season total to 21. Campbell has picked up 2 goals and an assist. These are 2 of the best players. I would go so far as to say not just in the Big East.
No, in America for sure. And Campbell's so interesting because you look at the start of the season for Nova, and Mike Corrado, in the first like 3 or 4 games of the season, they had him playing midfield, which is, I don't necessarily hate the idea of that because, one, you can attack more mismatches, try to get him on short sticks, going downhill from above the cage, but I think he's at his best on the wing where he can not only be a really dangerous shooter like we saw moments ago, but a guy who's always looking to find his teammates, always has his head up on the fly. And you see today, and over the past 2 or 3 games, they've moved him back to attack, and I think that's where we're going to see him for pretty much the duration of the season. You can work in shifts against him, trying to attack certain matchups, maybe in the midfield, but this kid is too talented to not be on attack at all times.
Sutar trying to go coast to coast off the face-off win. Another save made by Vatan.
Just that type of day for the shooters. I mean, Sutar does a nice job on the draw. Able to escape clean with it, but another offsides. But as a former face-off guy myself, you know you're left open for a reason. And that time, Sutar, they let him go all the way to the cage and put it right in the chest of Vatan.
When you say as a former face-off guy and then follow it up with that comment, I would say that you also are saying you know what that's like.
Oh, I certainly do.
Heil won it. Let him go. We're good. We'll figure it out.
Yep. They didn't want me giving the ball to my attackman. I did take advantage here and there, but there's always a reason that when you're going right down Main Street and no one picks you up, you're not viewed as too much of a threat.
First half coming into a close here. This last possession for Monmouth. Villanova will head to break. Well on their way to win number 6 on the season. Wildcats lead it 8-1. Plenty to do at halftime. Stick around for us here on Flow Sports, the Monmouth Digital Network. Villanova in charge here at the break. The number 9 team in the country leading Monmouth by a score of 8-1. Happy Saturday. Jackson Heil, Matt Harmon enjoying this one for you in a variety of ways that you can watch it today. Jackson, we've seen and know how good this Villanova team is, and it has been on full display in this first half.
Certainly, and I actually thought Monmouth got off to a really good start in this game, but Vatan kept a minute in between the pipes, and once Villanova got rolling, it was really a joy to watch them play. I mean, Patrick Daly was phenomenal, scoring 3 goals in that first half, who we'll get to in a second, but the way they can score in different ways and also be effective on the defensive end, turning turnovers into goals on the other end. So effective. One of the hottest teams in the country for a reason, showing it in those first 30 minutes.
And we've seen it. And, you know, we talk about Patrick Daly. We've talked about Matt Campbell. There's so many other guys that do, I think you'd like this, the dirty work for this team to make those guys and their numbers
be as prolific as they are.
We talk about winning in the trenches. That was the only way really Monmouth was going to have a chance today, and I thought that Nova was the team that was really the aggressors in those areas. We saw them in the riding game be effective with that 10-man ride. They started to take control on face-offs with Justin Coppola, but they are effective in so many different ways. But when it comes down to it, it is those two guys, Matt Campbell and Patrick Daly.
Let's look at some of the goals from Daly in that first half. He was really good, efficient. He's so strong, he's big, he's physical. He's basically a defenseman's nightmare.
Yeah, and he can score in different ways. We saw it 3 different times. He scores a dodger early with that underhand shot, then it's a catch-and-shoot situation on the man-up, and then on his third goal, just picking up loose change, being patient in those areas and finding a way to score. So we talk about him earlier, about being a guy who in those close and tight areas within 5 to 10 yards, he is a great cutter and a great finisher at 6'2", but when he is doing things like dodging and turning and scoring from underhand and then being a catch and shoot guy on man up, he's basically impossible to stop, and this Nova offense as a whole is flowing.
Let's finish with this one before we go to break. You talked about Monmouth. It was a Hawk team that started strong during the course of the first couple of minutes. The numbers there on Daly speak for themselves. If you're Brian Fisher right now, what are you telling your team?
I think the message is to just play as hard as you did in those first 30 minutes, because the scoreline is not due to how hard Monmouth played. I thought they had a lot of chances early. They led this game 1-0 before 8 unanswered from the Wildcats, but they had a chance to take a 2 or 3 goal lead early. They missed some chances. Vatan made some big saves. I think the message here is to just play as hard as you did in the first 30 and just find a way to finish, because if they had the finishing touch, this would be a competitive game. Instead, Nova has been able to stretch this and blow this wide open. The message for Fisher is that just to keep playing hard and go out there and just try to play your best.
And clearly for Brian Fisher, this game would be a learning lesson going back into league play in the CAA. You've already seen a real good Delaware team. You play a Villanova team. You hope that you're learning lessons that will pay dividends later on.
We talked about it a little earlier. Like, he knew what he was getting into when he built this schedule. It is an absolute gauntlet. You open up with Princeton, then it eased up a little bit. But again, when you have to play teams like Delaware and Towson in the CAA, that schedule's going to get a lot tougher. You got to have a test in Villanova here. And listen, you figure out what you're made of in times like these. And this last 30 minutes, find out a little bit what you're made of.
We were talking college basketball earlier. As we go to break, when we come back, on the flip side of it, we'll have a little bit more on a amazing run for the Monmouth women's basketball program. Made their first NCAA tournament in 40 years. You'll get to know a little bit more about it when we come back.
In between half number 1, half number 2, we will give you some of the stats and highlights in this first game. Villanova up 8-1 with Jackson Heil. I'm Matt Harmon. It was the start for Monmouth that was encouraging at the beginning, but Brian Fisher's worst nightmare came true, which is if the Wildcats get on a roll, they're going to be hard to stop.
Yeah, they certainly did get on a roll. 8 unanswered after Monmouth started the scoring. And we talked about it before. They had a couple of opportunities early. They hit a pipe, a couple shots from point blank that Will Vatan was able to stop. And from there, the Wildcats just started pouring it on offensively. Campbell was, as advertised, 2 goals and an assist in that first half. Daly with the hat trick himself. But how about the job by Mason Reale, too, as a facilitator? 3 assists in that first half. He had a couple skip passes for step downs that were money for Villanova. So overall, I think even though the Wildcats got off to a sloppy start and could have easily been down a couple goals in this game, when you don't take advantage of those opportunities, teams like Villanova will make you pay, and that's exactly what happened in those opening 30 minutes.
And it's a Monmouth team, no different than probably most in the country, dealing with some injury issues that got a lot of players out for the entire year. To continue with that theme, if you're missing some guys and you don't take advantage of opportunities like that one from Connor McCray, you're going to struggle against the real good teams.
Yeah, and we've talked about chances. That was another one early in a 1-0 game where they hit the post. Sean Ketchen had the opportunity, and then that's when Villanova started to get rolling. The back cut there from behind the cage. There's the putback from Daly, who had a really effective first half, and then this is just a big-time shot by Matt Campbell. Low to high, on the run. So hard to stop. And one of the big things I know when you look at the stats, face-offs, and Brian Fisher being a former face-off guy himself, understands the importance of that. I mentioned this before, but I don't think you can win games at the X, but you can certainly lose games. And after Monmouth got off to a good start on face-offs, it seemed like Justin Coppola finally settled in and was able to take over and dominate possessions. And you look at the numbers this season for these two, I mean, it's very similar. Coppola at 55%. Sutar's had a great year at 53%. And my one issue with Sutar is he's so tough, he's so competitive, but he will run into a couple violations here and there. And once one of those happens, it kind of takes him out of his rhythm. And I thought that's what happened for him in that first half. And Coppola at his frame, he is on the smaller end, but he is tough as nails, man. And we saw that in that first half. Should be an interesting battle to watch in the second half. If Monmouth wants any chance of getting back in this game, they're going to have to play make it, take it on the offensive end once they score goals and win draws.
Yeah, Sutar was called for a couple of holds off of the face-off, which Villanova has won 7 of the 11. You mentioned Coppola, 5'5", 160 pounds, second team All-Big East a season ago. And he is on a good roll right now, the senior out of Garden City, New York. Villanova in the dark blue uniforms today, Monmouth with the all-whites.
I mean, Coppola, he's only listed at 5'5", and that might even be a little generous. But I find that smaller guys are more effective on draws because of you're able to have that low center of gravity. And since the rules have changed where you can't go on one knee, that's even more important.
Win by Sutar to start.
Immediately, we see Nova applying pressure in the riding game. And a nice job by Quigg to break it. That's where Monmouth has been effective in their clears, is when Quigg has kind of done it himself. We saw him have that stretch pass to Stratton that led to the goal against the 10-man ride for Monmouth. But other than that, I think the 10-man ride from Coach Corrado has been really effective for Villanova. And when you play it right, it is really hard to stop.
Burke Webb. Carcian. Ketchen takes a shot. Goes high to low. Bounces off target. Possession to be kept for Monmouth.
And these Monmouth midfielders are going to have to win one-on-one battles at some point. And it's a really tough task because when you look at Villanova, we talked about Camizio, but Stevie Jones has also done a really nice job as a defensive midfielder this season.
Open look, McCray. That's how Monmouth started the game, a goal from Connor McCray, and that's how they open up the second half.
You talk about winning one-on-one battles. Ketchen does it right there. And that's the first time we've really seen it. He draws the help. It causes confusion. McCray finds the seam and lets one fly over the shoulder of Vuitton, and that's the exact start they're looking for. If you're able to win one-on-one matchups against midfielders, that brings the long stick help. That allows your attackman to get open, and McCray does just that on that occasion.
And in that particular case for Monmouth, we've said offensively, so many of their shots have come from distance, 20 yards out. That was one that came 10 yards and in, and McCray able to get his second of the afternoon.
Oof.
Great job by Sutar. Back-to-back face-off wins. See if Monmouth can take advantage here of 2 possessions at the beginning of the third.
And this was one of the big keys. Once you get goals, can you do make it, take it? Sutar off to a good start at the X here in the second half.
Stratton against Colwell. Webb.
Good help and recovery that time by Villanova. Jack Shoemaker was the one who came first.
Shot from distance, Carcian went with the spin and then the quick trigger. I'm not sure that Vuitton saw it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. Not to jump on you there, but it looked like Vuitton never saw this. And he looked confused by it. And so this is a better angle of it. Doesn't look like he was really screened though. And that's interesting. But again, that's what happens when you win draws and you give yourself possessions, you give yourself a chance. And a rare mistake from Baton, but you win another one, you start to feel like you're back in it.
Monmouth will win another one with Sutar. That's 3 straight to open the quarter.
And you just can't have that.
Was Terrence Lacewell, a tough pass across for McCray. And it kind of pops the balloon of momentum that Monmouth had running.
It's such a deflating turnover because it's unforced and it's unneeded. Lacewell, no one within 20 yards of him. Throws a bounce pass to McCray, who can't handle it, and then he has a chance for the ground ball, but has it checked away by Ivanchek.
Good defense by Scooter Whiteside. Villanova maintains possession.
And see, here's where you get Campbell in the midfield on a mismatch with Lacewell.
High shot by Frazier.
Now, that was one of those I don't think Monmouth needed to help. I think they went a little early on Campbell, and we know he's such a willing passer that time, and he set up Frazier, who had a pretty clean look, although it wasn't from the best angle and was from relatively far out. I don't know if they need to help that early on Campbell.
Shot clock to 15 for Villanova.
You know, Reality's looking to feed it.
Campbell. A step, a flick past Daly and into the waiting net of Coleman.
And that was the right idea by Reality. Had the skip pass to Campbell. And I didn't think that Morris took the best angle on that closeout, but Campbell just tried to make the extra pass. I think that's one he's got to shoot. I know Daly's inside and he's been so effective today, but that's an area where Campbell is very capable of scoring.
Caden Kesserling, a player they are high on here at Monmouth, freshman attacker out of Oklahoma. Stratton tried to wrap around. Cole to Kesserling.
And this kid is quick.
Stratton.
They got him tied up.
Looking inside for Caffarelli. We will have a whistle, and it will be possession Villanova.
Before that, we saw Stratton trying to go with the backhand. Good save by Vuitton. I just thought it was a really good opportunity for Stratton to kind of back things up and attack with his left hand. Instead, he went to his right and then tried to force a feed inside. I think that's when Stratton has to take to the house and attack the short stick matchup that he had there. And a missed opportunity for Monmouth. Let's see if they can keep getting stops, though. And they do here. It's going to be a moving screen.
Edmiston started getting it upfield. Over the halfway line is Rispoli.
And no matter what happens here, let's give Monmouth a lot of credit with the way they've come out here in the second half. I mean, it's easy to kind of lie down after giving up 8 straight goals against a really good team. In a game, I'm not going to say they were really in it because they weren't. But they've come out of the gates, they've thrown that first punch and gotten off the mat. Let's see if they have another punch in them to really work their way back into this game.
No alley to shoot for Carcy, and he'll leave it off for Ketchin.
Stratton's got to go get it. He's got a short stick on him.
Now he does have it. Look inside Caffarelli, and it's read perfectly by Sam Parkinson.
And that's the second time in a row that Stratton has had a short stick on him. He's looked to be a feeder. He's got to be the aggressor in those situations. You're the leader, you're your team's best player.
Great defensive play by Parkinson, the defensive midi out of San Francisco.
Absolutely. Read it perfectly. Saw Caffarelli was waiting on the back door and felt like the pass was a bit telegraphed. Good help. Oof.
Good move by Licata to free himself up. Campbell is high with the shot opportunity.
Yeah, Licata is shifty, man. He scored the game winner against Penn, and he's going to be a big part of this offense next year.
Campbell, unmarked coming through, and will make Monmouth pay.
Yeah, and he already is a big part of this offense, but he's going to be a potential breakout star candidate next year. But great cut by Campbell. Monmouth just gets completely lost. Edmiston caught ball watching. And that's where the veteran leadership comes into play there. Always makes the right decision. Always has his head on the fly. Understands that his defender is ball watching. Just cuts right in front of his face, and that's an easy one for Mr. Campbell.
Possession Nova off the face-off win. Camizio able to step in and get it out of the air.
Yeah, and that's he does just everything so well defensively, Camizio, but talk about a great athlete. Always has a great center of gravity defensively. And then he's a ground ball machine when they need him to be.
Luke Williams getting a touch. Tyler Bowes against Gray.
Now you got to help early. Anytime Campbell's got a short stick on him, they are going to go early and often, just like he does right now.
Against Whiteside, looking in Daly. Defensive work started by Edmiston, helped by Quigg, now picked up by Gray.
And that's a really nice job by the Monmouth defense. We talked about Campbell. They're going to slide early on him, especially when he has a short stick. And when you do that, the initial slide actually isn't as important in my eyes. It's the secondary help. You got to find where Campbell's going to move it to. And he saw Daly was open. Good backside help that time by Thomas Gray. And you force a turnover.
This is Ryan O'Rourke, number 30 for Monmouth, in the white uniform. Kesserling on with McLean as well. Stratton going low and scoring. Stratton on the board for Monmouth, his first of the day, and the Hawks able to answer back.
I think he learned from the last two possessions when he had short sticks and tried to be a feeder. This time, gets a step on Reed Colwell. And he loves to take the extra step to glory, into the dangerous area. Gets 5 yards above goal line extended and lets one fly low between the wickets of Vuitton. But a nice job by the freshman, Caden Kesserling, to make that happen. He draws the attention of Colwell initially, who gets caught behind just for a second. and allows Stratton to get space.
Another face-off win by Sutar. That has kept Monmouth alive in this third quarter.
Exactly. If you get this to 4, I think things start to get a little interesting here. Not to the point where Nova's going to start panicking, but you get it to 4, you certainly have their attention.
Kesserling.
Oof.
Quick moves. Back to Stratton at X. Deflected away. Loose ball picked up Colwell. And a good check by Kesserling to get possession back for Monmouth.
How about the freshman making things happen? You can see why they love this kid. One, he's incredibly quick, but that time he was able to get the switch and allow Stratton to go against the shorty, who eventually turned it over, but stays with the play. Extra hustle. Is the smallest kid on the field, but he's able to nudge and get an extra possession.
Caden Kesserling, 5'7", 140 pounds. A shot that was taken, but not before a timeout will come. Ty Caffarelli the opportunity. Monmouth the chance to hold things up. 54 on the shot clock, 3:32 on the game clock in the third when we come back. Monmouth making a game of it here in the third, outscoring Villanova 3-1. Wildcats still leading 9-4. We referenced earlier a 2017 win for the Hawks against, at that point, the first ranked opponent that Monmouth had won. Big reason why, in the net, Nick Haresko, number 13, was a fantastic guy between the pipes. Now on the sideline, former Monmouth goalie for this Monmouth team. He has done such a good job working with Coleman and the rest of the players in that position.
Yeah, well, what a career he had. 2017 MAC Defensive Player of the Year. Big part of that first championship team. And let's see if Stratton can make something happen again. Build off the confidence of that last goal.
Villanova, possession with numbers and speed. Trip Robinson starting it. Save inside is made by Coleman.
It was interesting. They went to the long pole there. And Nova was patient on that break. Woof.
Carcian hit by Robinson. That's going to draw a flag. Daly is down, looks injured for Villanova. A lot to break down on that last sequence of plays.
Yeah, and the first thing is, how about Carcian just eating one up high and staying with it, drawing the penalty, putting Monmouth on man up. And now Daly, like you mentioned, he's got a brace on that left knee. Wasn't sure if he tweaked it or got bumped, but that is significant news for Villanova. Their leading goal scorer going off. So we get another look at Carcian just eating a cross-check up high. And immediately Daly was holding his knee, but hope he's all right. But now an opportunity for the Hawks on the man up.
1 minute man up for a Monmouth team that trails by 5.
Somewhere they've really struggled today. Had some good looks on their first one. Try a little hidden ball trick.
Robinson off with the cross check.
They've been stagnant on the perimeter today. Let's see if that changes in these final 30 seconds on the man up.
Got Caffarelli waiting in the slot. Wind-up shot down low by Cole. Save made by Vuitton.
That's a good save. I don't know if I love the shot selection, but with how things have been on the man up, I think you'll take that opportunity. If you're Monmouth, 13 yards, step down overhand from Luke Cole, and Vuitton all over it, getting across. The good thing about Cole's shot there was he did change levels. You go overhand, you want to shoot low. Change the eye level for the goaltender, but Vuitton was able to eat that one up.
9th save of the day for Will Vuitton.
It's had 4 or 5 easy ones, but he's also made some good stops.
Reigning Defensive Player of the Week in the Big East. Good contact for Monmouth, and out of the pack with it is Lacewell.
That was a great check. Nova just trying to force the issue there, and now the Hawks can hold for the final shot of the quarter if they choose so. I'd like to see the ball maybe in Sean Ketchin's hands here. We saw him create earlier. Get an opportunity through the midfield and force the issue and force the help to come.
Webb looking at the big video board and the game clock, which is now at 12. Double comes. Penalty coming up as well. Clock stopping just under 4 seconds. Webb took a shot, and it looks like Monmouth will get a man-up situation going into the fourth.
That's a really bad penalty by Villanova. It's a situation where Webb is turning away from the cage, has no angle to shoot with his left hand. And with time running down in the quarter, there's really nothing he can do there. All you have to do is just stay on your feet and stay in front of him. And trust your goalie to make a stop. Instead, not only do you give Monmouth the chance of the man up, but they can also start the fourth quarter with the ball and try to tag on at the beginning of the fourth.
They'll let the remaining 3, almost 4 seconds go off. Hawks will start with it. When we come back, they've got 27 seconds to work with a man up. Welcoming most of our student population back from spring break. Monmouth just off the break a week ago. For more information on Giving Days for Monmouth, again, March 23rd, March 24th, you can go to monmouthhawks.com or monmouth.edu. With Jackson Heil, I'm Matt Harmon. Drew Kurtz, our producer, director today. Inside that room that you just saw, the Parton Broadcast Center. Monmouth with a man-up situation. As this is about to tick down, teams will be at even strength.
Really ineffective day on the man-up for Monmouth. They have really not had a ton of movement on the outside, and when you don't move when you're man up, you're easy to defend because you let one guard 2. And that's really been the case for Nova defensively today.
Low shot, Vuitton fighting it off. Shot clock to 60.
Now 0 for 6 today for Monmouth with the extra man, and Nova's 2 for 3. It paints a significant picture in a 5-goal game. Let's see if they can get Stratton going. Been talking about it all second half. If they want any chance, they need him to be the aggressor.
A race to the side, won by Villanova, who will get possession.
Great hustle. Keith Cara winning that race to the sideline. He was behind Caffarelli to begin with, but got a good read and a good jump, and able to use his speed to get to the sideline first. And those are the hustle plays that are difference makers. Steal possessions for your offense late in games. And they can be momentum halters, that's for sure.
Licata possessing.
Monmouth defense has done a really good job in the second half. Their communication has been excellent on switches. They've also helped early when they've needed to, and their secondary slides have been exactly where they've needed to be. See if they can sustain that.
Villanova 3 goals in the first quarter, 5 in the second, just 1 in that third.
It's a great ground ball.
Picked up by Miles Edmiston, freshman out of North Carolina, who took a shot.
Campbell's shot got deflected, and sometimes when you get a stick on a shot, the spin on the ball is weird coming off the surface. And that was exactly the case there. And Edmiston using the long pole to just drag it to safety. And we talked about earlier how offensively it looked like Monmouth was trying to get a lot of early possessions. This second half, everything has been slowed down. They're willing to play 6-on-6. Sometimes that can just be game flow, but definitely an interesting change in the second half.
Stratton, crossfield, Kesserling. Kesserling fighting, couldn't get the shot off clean. Good defensive work by Parkinson, who has done really well for Villanova in that defensive midi spot.
It was a great opportunity in transition. But nicely defended by Monmouth. Kesserling had a good opportunity on the other end. He got the extra step and had a look at Cage, just couldn't handle the ball on his cross. And there's a flag.
Villanova, an opportunity with a man upcoming.
Second time on a little stick to the helmet for Monmouth today. This one coming, I believe, from Ryan Morris.
Gertie will be the player to go off.
Yeah, Morris was the one arguing with it. I don't know what he was arguing, but that was an easy call for the officials, who were right in front of that one. And now interesting, Nova on this man up, starting Gavin Durham on the outside. They like to get him on the interior where he is right now.
Has it. Quick turn and shoot. Possession kept by Villanova.
Just look how quick the ball moves. It really is hot potato with these guys. Every time someone catches it, it's a quick decision, they move it. That's the real difference on the map. You can stand still on the outside a little bit and be okay as long as the ball's moving quickly. Nova combines really good movement with quick ball movement as they get it around.
Gertie off for a minute, a half of which has come off for the slash. Good catch down low from Reale. Could not get it past Coleman.
It was a great look up top by Frazier. Wasn't the best pass, but Reale was able to handle it. Just couldn't put it in the back of the net.
Frazier gets it back. Penalty is over. A shot taken by Daly. Possession will be kept by Villanova.
Reale's been a real X factor. Playing at X too. Great facilitator. And he's hit that skip pass a couple times today.
Coleman fights off the shot from Campbell. Picked up with possession and coming forward is Clark. Whiteside didn't see the stick check coming from the back. Jack Shoemaker with the defensive play.
Hesitated for just a second and leads to an odd man rush on the other end.
Daly leaves off. Campbell And Villanova makes Monmouth pay for not getting the shot off.
It was just a slight hesitation on the other end from Whiteside that allowed the check to happen from Shoemaker, but this is a great pass by Daly. This is something you see in hockey that's so clever sometimes. You skate behind the net and just leave the puck back on the near side, and the goalie isn't expecting it. That's exactly what happens here with Daly. He was forced to the outside, comes behind the cage, but brings it right back to Campbell. And it's just a quick release up top over Coleman. And that's what really good teams do. They make you pay for mistakes. Nova hasn't been perfect today. They have made some mistakes themselves. We've seen plenty of them. But the difference is Monmouth hasn't been able to capitalize. Every time the Hawks have turned it over, have been stifled on one end, Nova's been able to make them pay for it.
We thought maybe after the last couple from Villanova, wins over Drexel and Penn in the Philly 4, maybe they would look past this Monmouth team a little bit, and I would agree, Jackson. I don't know that they've been their sharpest, but it shows sometimes when you don't play your best that you can still get wins.
I think it's one of the most important skills in sports, especially in college when a lot of the situations are tournament style. Like when you have an NCAA tournament, you got to win 4 or 5 games to win a national title. And in reality, you're not going to always be at your best for those 4 or 5 games. And that's what made Maryland so dangerous last year, because even when they weren't at their best, they were able to beat teams because they understood how to win and they were an experienced and veteran group. Now you look at some teams that are doing it this year. I mean, Notre Dame is unbelievable. This Villanova team can make some serious noise as well. But I mean, you look at title contenders right now. Virginia, Notre Dame. Outside of that, it's a pretty wide open field, and I think Villanova is certainly going to be one of those teams in the conversation down the stretch, depending on how they finish this season.
They have, Villanova does 3 of their 5 Big East games this year on the road. Home against St. John's and Marquette, away at Denver, at Providence, at Georgetown.
And you look at the way they finish out of conference play, obviously today against Monmouth, but you get Navy at home. And Navy's been pretty good, but again, they've gone on a bad stretch recently. And then that Brown matchup's really interesting because if you look at Brown this season, the record doesn't entirely tell the whole story because they've had 7 seniors suspended for a large majority of the season, and their first game back will be that one.
Catch and finish for Stratton. Set up by Carcian. Will give Monmouth a little juice here for the last 6 minutes.
And a nice job by Stratton on the back cut. Caught the freshman Ivanchek sleeping. That's what happens when there's movement on the interior. I haven't seen it when Monmouth's had an extra player on the field, but that's a great cut by the Monmouth senior. But unable to keep the momentum going as Coppola wins another faceoff. I'm not sure what the whistle is here, but doesn't look like there's a foul of any sort, so we'll keep playing. Regardless of the final here, I think Monmouth did learn a lot about themselves, especially in the second half. I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but they could have easily come out and folded here in these final 30 minutes, trailing by 7 at halftime, but they've battled. And battled against a really good team that's been playing great lacrosse over the last couple weeks. And for that, I think Coach Fisher will be really happy.
Coleman fights that one off from Campbell. Whiteside back for Coleman to reset.
And you talked about it before of this game potentially being, call it a trap game for Villanova. Winning 4 straight. You're playing against a Monmouth team that just got beat down by Delaware. Definitely could have looked past it, and they haven't been great today. No question about it, but they've been good enough so far. As we approach 4.5 to go in the 4th.
Webb trying to clear some space.
And now you really need movement. You have them tied up here.
Flag thrown.
There may have been some extracurricular stuff that I missed in the middle there, but see what the call is in a second. Looks like it's on Carson. Unnecessary roughness, interesting.
1 minute on Carson.
I definitely missed that one. I was trying to figure out if it had something to do with the screen that was set for Stratton, but now some more time that Nova can kill off the clock here. And especially if Monmouth isn't going to apply too much pressure.
Campbell. Reale. Touch for Luke Raymond as well, who has it goal line extended. That one dings back off the post.
All started from great ball movement. Reale's creating everything behind the cage, and a timeout now taken by Villanova.
We're going to take a timeout here. 3:36 remaining. Villanova up 5. Back up and going, less than 3.5 to go. Possession for Villanova. Wildcats in the blue jerseys today, if you're just joining us. A big run of 8 straight. Wildcats went down 1-0 and then scored 8 in a row. 8-1 at the break. Monmouth much better here in the second half, but has been unable to get the deficit to a point where Villanova maybe starts to sweat a little more.
And they've had a couple ground ball opportunities on this possession that they haven't been able to corral. And they do on the 3rd try.
Rispoli from his knees to start it.
Good hustle back by Frazier. Looked like it might have been a chance for the Hawks to have 4-on-3 opportunity, but Frazier got on his horse immediately. And this has been a matchup to watch all day. Stratton's gotten a couple goals, but you got to give credit to Reed Colwell. He's done a really nice job defensively. Has made everything that Stratton's gotten difficult.
Colwell, big presence in that back line. 6'1", 200-pound junior out of Westfield.
He's emerged as one of the best close defenders in the country.
Open look and a finish. Diving is Ryan O'Rourke.
And off a broken play here. Nice job by Stratton to handle the shot that went behind the cage, and miscommunication on the help between Colwell, who we were just singing his praise, and Comizio. Rare to see a mistake between those two, but nice for O'Rourke to get on the board, his second of the year, the freshman.
Very talented young class for Brian Fisher.
And we've seen some of it today. O'Rourke getting on the board in that fashion. We saw some good minutes from Kesterling before.
Gray will take a penalty, I think, for Monmouth.
Yeah, he's going to get booked for a slash on Justin Capola, who's done a really good job for Villanova in this second half.
11-8, the face-off advantage for the Wildcats on the day. Our broadcast of Monmouth Lacrosse on Flow Sports brought to you in part today by World Subaru. Get more for your money at World Subaru. And by Coca-Cola, zero sugar, great Coca-Cola taste, zero sugar. You see in the background there the Monmouth softball field. It's a day where here in West Long Branch on the Monmouth campus, athletics is hosting 4 different sports.
Oh, yeah.
Softball over on that side, baseball behind us, women's lacrosse. Congratulations to Jordan Troutman as Monmouth beat Elon in a thriller right before our game, 12-11, to get their first ever win in their new league, the CAA.
Yeah, big game for them. They were trailed 8-3 early in that one. Able to come from behind and get their first win as a member of the CAA. It's a big-time win for Coach Troutman. And you got to give credit to the Hawks. I'm impressed with the way they battled, especially in the second half. And listen, they're down 4 goals to one of the top 10 teams in the country right now. It's nothing to slouch at. I mean, you obviously always go with the mindset that you want to win every game, but I definitely think there are some moral victories that can be taken from this one, especially with how they played last time out against Delaware, where it was a bloodbath right from the get-go. This has been the total opposite. Monmouth has battled from the opening whistle till now. The only reason this isn't even tighter is because they haven't been able to take advantage of opportunities. They just haven't been able to finish, and that in itself is a little frustrating, but you'll live with that over losing a game because you get outplayed, you get out-physicaled. Sometimes you just don't take advantage of opportunities, and I think that's been the case today for the Hawks.
Nobody will want to lose a game, I would say, not having a chance to ask him this since he's on the field. Brian Fisher would take the performance today over what took place a week ago at Delaware.
Not even a debate in that regard. A lot of positives that can be taken away from this game for the Hawks going forward and as they get fully into CAA play.
Villanova on the man up. A penalty on Thomas Gray for a slash. Wildcats can, in essence, almost run the clock out here.
This is going to be a really tough team to beat going forward. Because of how good the Big East is, I don't think they'll run the table, but they're capable of it. We'll have some really tough games against Georgetown, Denver. Like you mentioned, Marquette will be a difficult game as well, especially if they play like they did today in their win over Penn State. But this is a tournament team, no doubt. And the Hawks can hold their heads high for this performance.
Will go as a loss for Monmouth. They will fall to 4-3 on the year. Villanova will improve to 6-1. Monmouth, after this one, will turn their attention to what will be a difficult road in the CAA. They've got back-to-back home games coming up next weekend against Stony Brook, the following weekend against Hofstra. You can watch all those games right here from the Monmouth Digital Network. This is a stretch for Monmouth of 4 in a row. They've got a non-conference game early April against St. Joseph's as well.
It'll be it was a good litmus test today to find out not only where you are but what you're made of. And I think Brian Fisher found out he's got a real tough group with him. And they will win a couple CAA games this year. And if they play like they did today, they'll have a good conference season, that's for sure. But give credit to Villanova, even though they weren't at their best at all times today, especially early in this game. They were able to weather the storm. Got a couple big saves from their goaltender in Will Vuitton, who made 11 of them. And then they were able to get the offense rolling late in that first quarter, and that 8-0 run to end the first half really changed the game. So it'll be interesting to see how things fare going forward, but I think there are definitely some moral victories that can be taken away from this one for Monmouth.
Villanova's still a couple of games on the non-conference slate when they get Navy and Brown before they get into Big East play. Really good regional matchup that we had for you today between Villanova and Monmouth. At halftime, I think some would have said might get a little shaky in the second half. Give Monmouth a lot of credit. They outscored Villanova in the third and fourth quarter by a 5-2 margin. They just had dug themselves too big of a hole, going down 8-1 after the first half.
Yeah, there's definitely some positives to be taken away. And you mentioned a good regional rivalry. I hope we see this matchup again sometime down the road. Obviously, scheduling is part of the more interesting part of college lacrosse, because a lot of the teams you play out of conference are the same each year. You play pretty much the same schedule, barring a few games here and there, but this is a matchup that should become a staple for both these programs. I mean, the travel's pretty easy. It's two teams that are definitely on the upswing. You mentioned the freshman class that Brian Fisher had come in this season, and this is a Nova team that's going to be a load to deal with down the stretch in the Big East and nationally come the NCAA tournament. So I hope it's definitely a matchup we see again sometime in the future, but I think both teams learned a lot about themselves today as we get a look at the final stats. We talked a lot about the face-offs and how that was going to be a factor today. I thought both guys did a pretty good job, but in the end, Justin Coppola getting the best of Matt Sutar. But a good win for the Wildcats, and something they'll be able to build on as they approach the end of non-conference play and head into Big East play. As a top 10 team in America, that certainly won't change today.
Mike Corrado, the Villanova head coach, on his way over to give us a couple of minutes to discuss this game and another win for his Wildcat side. Coach, it's always easy when you talk about Campbell, Daly, Vuitton. I'm going to give you the first crack at talking about some of the other guys that make such a difference for the success of your team.
I'm sorry, just getting this out of that. You're asking other players?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll give it to you again, Coach. Campbell, Daly, Vuitton. I mean, that's your big three in essence, but there's so many other guys that probably go unheard of, but so important to the overall success of your team.
Yeah, I thought today, Justin Coppola played great at the face-off X. When we got on a little bit of run in that first half, he won a bunch in a row, and then he won some important ones in that fourth quarter. So he's been having a great year for us. I thought Stevie Jones and Chet Camizio and Gavin Burke, our Sam Parkinson, our short stick D-Midi group did a great job today. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
We got you.
Okay. So I thought our short six did a good job. Defense overall, holding them to 6 goals is a great effort by them. So really happy. That's 4 games in a row now that we've been single digits at the defensive end. So those guys are really coming together.
Coach Jackson Heil here with you. Congrats on the win. And I think a lot of maybe in years past, this might be a game that can be viewed as a trap game. You come off an emotional win over Penn, and you come on the road against a Monmouth team coming off a bad loss. I don't think you guys played your best today necessarily, but how important is it to win games like this, especially when you're maybe not at your best offensively?
Yeah, I mean, coming off of the game last week against Penn was, a great win. It's a rivalry game, but we know they're, Monmouth's 4-2. They've had some great wins, and so we expected a challenging game today, and I thought their defense played great. Changed up some things that we had worked on during the week, and really kind of gave us some trouble creating really good scoring opportunities. So I'm not surprised at all.
Coach, appreciate you coming by, giving us a couple minutes. Enjoy the rest of the non-conference. I know you got a couple of big ones with Navy and Brown, and then best of luck in the Big East season as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, appreciate it. That is Villanova head coach Mike Corrado, who comes by and gives us a couple words. His team, another win to 6-1, the Wildcats. A fun game today, as we talked about, a nice regional rivalry developing. For Andrew Kurtz, our producer, director, my partner Jackson Heil, I'm Matt Harmon saying goodbye from West Long Branch, New Jersey, and Monmouth University. Final score, Villanova 10, Monmouth 6. Flow Sports, your home for live and on-demand CAA coverage all season long. Visit flowsports.tv/CAA for more information. This has been a presentation of the Monmouth Digital Network. Have a great rest of your Saturday.